Hello, nice to see you here. Thank you for joining us. And I believe it's about time we begin. Let me start with a short introduction. So what the webinar is about. We have decided with our partner Global Caché to have the webinar to let you know about the new things that Global Caché has to offer you, a great variety of them, and how Global Caché devices can be used together with iRidium and what iRidium can be used for in your project. Can you hear me well? Is everything all right with the connection? You can write in chat, please, yes, or put a plus for me to see if everything goes right. Oh, all right. You can hear me. Oh, wonderful. So there will be two speakers from Global Caché. That is Rusty Keller, the marketing director from Global Caché, and Garrett Gustafson, the engineer from Global Caché. And you are free to ask any question that you have about their speeches, and you're welcome to write them in chat. And after they finish speaking, all the questions will be answered. So I'm passing on this the speech to Rusty. Here you are. Rusty?
Hi, thank you, Olga. I'd like to thank, here, let me get my presentation up. I'd like to thank iRidium and Olga for inviting us to participate in the webinar training today. As she mentioned, my name is Rusty Keller. I'm one of the founders and the marketing director at Global Caché. I'm going to share a few items about our company and our market with you, and then I'll pass the baton over to one of our engineers, Garrett Gustafson. And after Garrett speaks, iRidium will share their information, or Olga, on how we work together as partners. We welcome questions, as many questions as you have. We'll be here to answer them. But because of the format of the training, it would be best if we could hold the questions to the end. Can somebody give me a yes that they can hear me okay, that the sound is good? Okay, awesome. So, as Olga mentioned, we are Global Caché. We were founded in 2002 by Silicon Valley veterans from the IT industry. That's myself, Robin Ford, and Walt Keller. We came from Silicon Valley and took an enterprise software company public that both Walt and Robin had founded. Our current company focuses on IP enabling and connectivity products for residential, where we started, and since then, in the last 12 years, we've grown substantially in educational and commercial markets. We are open systems based, and we are big proponents of industry standards. The GC100 network adapter is the first product of its kind and still continues 10 years after its introduction in the market to be quite popular with installers and dealers. The iTach family of products was introduced in 2009, followed by the iTach Flex, which is the first smart endpoint and has won 3 industry awards since being introduced. We have market leadership with over 500,000 units installed in the field. And I say this every time I give this presentation, is that number goes up substantially every time, so I'll have to check. We might actually, it might be much higher now. We sell our products through the channel, primarily through distributors, 50% internationally and 50% domestically here in North America. We also have a few master distributors who are allowed to sell to other distributors and also dealers installers. We also sell to VARs. VARs sell to their channel and sell our product with their product bundled. We also have a few OEMs, a pretty robust OEM program where we brand all of our software, firmware, and hardware as the companies, and then they're able to sell it as their brand. Why Global Caché? Well, our claim to fame is that we're open. We have an open architecture. Every API that we have developed, and we have several for all of our products, including the recently launched Control Tower, our IR database in the cloud. Every API that we have is available on our website. They're updated regularly, so if you are using them, I would suggest you go to our docs page and make sure you have the most current version. We work with everybody. We consider ourselves a partnering company. Without our partners, both our software, our system, and our hardware partners, we would be useless. We are the glue that sticks these different pieces together. But without the pieces, there's no need for the glue. So why do you want us? We are best of breed. We give you choice in what you use. We are agnostic on the front end. And on the back end. We are extremely cost competitive, and we future-proof. It allows for a changing environment from smartphones to tablets to desktops to completely web-enabled applications. And again, partners. We are all about our partnerships, and we play well with everyone. We focus on Wi-Fi and IP connectivity to infrared, serial, and to contact closure relay. Those are really, those are the protocols we focus on right now. And then we have a number of partners. And I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Garrett, who will walk you through the different product lines and answer any technical questions you may have.
Well, thank you, Rusty. It's a real pleasure to be part of this webinar here with iRidium and as well as us here at Global Caché. So let me just show my screen here. Okay. So I'm going to go through our product lines, and I'm going to give you guys some information about what it is we do, as well as what type of things we control. So here at Global Caché, we control a variety of different devices, and we all do this all through the network, through IP-enabled devices. And we specialize in controlling residential, commercial, and educational installations. So your home theater, your multi-dwelling units, your commercial boardrooms, stadiums, or your classrooms. And the way we do this is through a variety of different control means. So our first product that we developed and brought to market was the GC100. And the GC100 has two different functional groups that really focus on the three main types of control that we've adopted with our control model here. So those three things are serial, relays, and IR. And we have, with the GC100, three different models here. There's the GC106, which has one serial port and three IR ports. We have the GC112 and the GC118, which are functionally the same, but the 18 has a rack mount variant that allows you to mount in a rack. And those have two serial ports, three relay outputs, and six IR or sensor inputs. Another thing to note about the GC100 series is that the IR outputs can be used also as sensors with any of our GC sensor cables for sensing contact closure or voltage. So with the iTach family of products, what we've done is we've focused on those same types of control, being infrared, serial, and relays. And we've turned it into what I like to call localized control, where one device does one thing. So we have a device for infrared, we have a device for serial, we have a device for relay. Okay, sorry folks, looks like I got muted there for a second. So I'm not sure how much you heard of there, but we control, our iTach family controls IR, serial, and relays. And we've also updated the hardware of these units to give us a little bit more features, which includes supporting up to 8 simultaneous connections, which means that if you have somebody that's in the TV room They can talk to one of our devices, while someone that's in the bedroom can also talk to that same device and send out IR codes on that device as well, or serial or relays. Whereas the GC100 was limited to, or is limited to, one connection. So you'd only have one person being able to talk to that device at a time. We've also added the ability to upgrade these units in the field, which means that if we add any, when we add new features or when we bring a new cable or a new compatible product to the market, you're able to upgrade it. It would also, if we have any bug fixes, you can upgrade those through on those units as well. Another thing that we've also added that a lot of people find really useful is we've added IR learners on the iTach family of product, whereas the GC100, there's a separate learner that you can get. The iTach has the learner built in, which means that you have everything you need if you're doing IR control. You just need your smartphone, a network, and the iTach, and you can learn your codes from the remote and send them out as well. So the iTach family comes in a variety of different models, and it's slight difference in form factors. We have the Wi-Fi IR, which is a wireless version of our IR control iTach, and we have the IP IR, which is a network control, as well as the ability to have we have a PoE variant of the IP IR as well. And it's kind of the same idea for serial. We have a Wi-Fi version for connecting wirelessly, an IP version for connecting through Ethernet, and we also have a PoE variant. And with the contact closure, the same idea. We have the Wi-Fi, the IP, and the ability to have a PoE variant there. So with our latest Flex, or with our latest product, which is the Flex, we've introduced the iTach Flex, which is named because it's flexible. The iTach Flex allows you to do basically what the iTach family does, except instead of having one device that can only do IR, one device that can only do serial, the iTach Flex lets you choose what your device does simply by plugging in a different cable to it. So we support the same types of controls, serial, IR, as well as relay in one of our upcoming cables. And you're able to just plug those cables in and then start doing that type of control. So another thing we've also added with the Flex is we've added HTTP API, which is different than the TCP APIs that we've been using with all our different all our previous products. That Flex still supports the TCP API, but we've added an HTTP API on top of that if for developers that want to use that. We've also added an additional or an improved wireless module into this unit. The Wi-Fi and the iTach Flex is wireless G, which we find wireless B is plenty fast for what we do. We're not sending streaming video, but wireless G is a lot more commonplace, and we have found that some routers don't support wireless B anymore. So that's this iTach Flex will just be completely compatible with current hardware out in the field. And we also have an IR learner on the iTach Flex as well, which means that you can still learn your codes, and it's been improved to make things as easy as possible for learning. So here's some of the FlexLink cables that we have for the iTach Flex. We have the FlexLink triport cable, which is the cable up on the top, plugged into the Flex up on the top right. And that allows you to plug in different IR cables, being an IR emitter or IR blaster. We also have pre-molded versions of this cable, being the FlexLink 3 emitter cable and the FlexLink 2E1B cable, which will come basically with 3 emitters already connected to one 3.5 millimeter jack, or 2 emitters and 1 blaster in the case of the 2E1B cable. We also have single variants of these, so if you just want one blaster or you just want one single IR emitter, you can do that as well. The FlexLink relay and sensor cable is a cable that we're actually on the verge of releasing, and that'll add relay outputs on the Flex as well as sensor inputs, which I'll talk about more in the near future in this presentation. And finally, we have the FlexLink serial cable, which allows you to do serial control through the iTach Flex. So now that we've kind of gone over a little bit of what type of products we have and what type of control they do, I'm going to go over a little bit of how a normal, typical installation might look with the iTach Flex. So you would get your iTach Flex out of the package, and you would want to hook it up to your network, of course. So for an Ethernet model, you would just plug it into the network, and it would automatically get an IP address through DHCP, which would be configurable if you wanted a static IP address later. But if you had a Wi-Fi unit, it would be a very similar process, but you'd have one additional step. The unit would, by default, create its own wireless network, and you'd be able to connect to that with your iPad, iPhone, or wireless-enabled PC, and be able to enter in the unit's default IP address, which would take you to the Flex configuration pages. And on those configuration pages, you'd be presented with a list of the available wireless networks in your area, and then you would be able to select the network that you wanted to connect to, being your home network or your commercial installation network, and then you would just enter in the password, and the unit would reboot and connect to that network. So a little bit more about the unit configuration pages. The configuration pages are not only used in the wireless units to connect units to the network, but also to set settings based on what type of control you're doing. So on the left, we have the iTach Flex web pages, which, as you can see there, there's some different cable types you can select. So on the Flex, you'd be able to select what type of cable you have plugged in, and if you have a serial cable, you'd also be able to set your serial settings there, being your baud rate and things like that. And we'll also be able to set different relay types with the upcoming relay cable. On the right and on the bottom, we have the iTach and the GC100 web pages, respectively. For the GC100, we'd be able to set all of our settings for our serial ports on those units, as well as the IR ports. The relay ports don't need any configuration. And then the iTach would have either a serial IR or serial or an IR section, depending on whether you had configuration for determining what type of IR cable you had plugged in or what serial settings you wanted. And all of these web pages also allow you to set network settings, so you can set up a static IP address or configure them for DHCP. So to make the use of our products and the integration of our products as easy as possible, we've developed 4 utilities that allow you to do various things with our units. The first and the most commonly used one is probably iHelp. And this utility allows you to detect units that are on your network that are Global Caché units. So once you have your network that's been connected to your network, it'll probably get a DHCP address by default, unless you've configured it for a static. In which case you might not know what address it's come up on. So iHelp will scan your network, it'll pick up on beacons that the units all send out, and it'll tell you what IP address the unit has, so you can easily get that IP address and enter it into your control software. You can also do upgrades through iHelp for the iTach and the iTach Flex. So if we release any new features or bug fixes or anything of that nature, you'll be able to do that through iHelp. The next utility we've released is iLearn, which is a utility that's geared towards IR control. And iLearn allows you to use our IR learners and be able to get codes from those. So on the iTach and all of these, actually in all of the units, you use these by connecting to the IP address of the unit, and the utility takes care of all that connection there. You just have to enter the IP address. And you'll be able to talk to or learn from the learner on the iTach or the iTach Flex, or if you have a GCIRL or GCIRE on the GC100's serial port. And once you have your codes, or if you've gotten your codes from another source, you may need to use iConvert. iConvert allows you to take codes you've gotten from another database that are in hex and put them into the GC format. Or if your control software uses the hex format, you could also go from GC format into hex. And the final utility we have there is iTest, which allows you to send commands directly to the device. So that allows you to test the device to make sure you communicate with it, and also send commands if you're having trouble configuring your control software. So one of the things that Rusty mentioned briefly that we're really excited about is Control Tower. And what Control Tower is an online IR database, a cloud-based database. And Control Tower has over 138,000 codes, which means that a lot of your devices out there are going to be on this database. And it really simplifies the use of IR because instead of having to learn all the remote buttons, which is certainly doable and pretty straightforward, you can just go on the database and just download the entire code set, and it takes you 30 seconds instead of 5 minutes. So it just makes things really simple. It's also a database that's really regularly maintained, and that allows it's released, or we actually get the database from a third-party company that actually is devoted themselves to this database and maintain this database. So whenever new devices come out, they're always the first to go out there and get those codes and make sure that they're updated in the database. And if any of you are interested, there's the link there for the database. So here we have an iTach Wi-Fi to IR. This could be any of our devices, but just a little bit on how a typical use case of our device would be. So you would set the device up for your network. It would be connected here, and in this case we're sending IR. So we would pull up our control software, which it could be any of our partners, or it could be iRidium, and you'd say you want to send a power command to your TV. You'd press the power on button or the equivalent button, and it would just go out from your phone over the network to the unit, and then the unit would send the IR code out on the IR blaster, which would go to the TV, and the TV would turn on. So IR is one of the most commonly used control forms that we support, and as you can see here on this first bullet point, we support a range of 32 kilohertz to 500 kilohertz. And to put this in perspective, a lot of, or almost all the IR codes you're going to come across will likely be under 60 kilohertz in frequency. But we've gone ahead and we've implemented all the way up to 500 kilohertz. So those outliers like Bang & Olufsen and some AC units will still be controllable with our device. So no matter what device you have, you'll still be able to talk to it and send codes to it using our IR devices. And in order to control IR devices, we have a couple different means. We have IR emitters, which are basically really short-range transmitters. These devices are these cables, which you can see up on the top right, are meant to be put on the receiver, directly on the receiver of the unit. So you would just peel back some double-sided tape that's on the other side of it, and you just stick it right on top of the receiver on the unit. And then when you send a command out, it would go out on that IR emitter, and only that device would respond. And as we have noted here, the Flex can support 3 emitters. There's always a little bit of confusion about that, since it only has one jack there, but it does have the tri-port cables that allow you to expand that out to 3 individual IR outputs there. The next mode of communication we have through IR is with the IR blaster. And the IR blaster is essentially a long-range form of emitter. It's more akin to what you would normally see as a remote in your home theater. So instead of sending commands that would go just directly from the emitter to the receiver, you can send it across the room to the receiver. So if you have your TV set up with your cable box and those are using 2 of the IR outputs, then you can just send the, say you have a projector, you can send the command over from the blaster to the projector that might be in the middle of the room. And finally, we have the Xantech compatibility cable, which is the GC-CGX cable. And what this cable allows you to do is it allows you to hook into any of the IR distribution blocks out there that use a Xantech style of IR input. And so this allows you to expand the amount of IR ports that you can talk to. And there'll be an example on that later. So here's the typical installation that we have for an IR setup. We would send a command out over our control tower or control software, and this would be perhaps power on, and it would go over the network, go in through the network connector. In this case, it's the GC100 through the Ethernet. It could also be Wi-Fi on a different device, It would go out over on the IR emitter, go to the device, and the device that you chose, being port 1, 2, or 3, would respond and power on. So here's an example with the GC-CGX cable. The idea is pretty much the same. You would send a command out over from your control software. It would go out over the network to the one of the IR ports on your device. And then it would go out over the GC-CGX cable into the distribution block. And then from the distribution block, it would go out to all the emitters that were on the distribution block. It would talk to all the devices there. However, due to the nature of IR codes, if these devices are different devices, only the one that knows or is looking for that specific command will respond to it. So serial is another way that we use to talk to devices. And as we can see here, we have we support a wide range of speeds. On the GC100, that's 1200 to 57.6 kbaud. On the iTach and the iTach Flex, we support up to 115.2 kilobaud. And another thing we've added on the iTach Flex is the ability to change genders easily through software. If you've ever done any work with RS-232 or serial, you've probably come across null modem or crossover or straight through cables. And what these cables do is they essentially change two lines on the cable, and if you have the wrong cable, you oftentimes can't communicate. So with the iTach Flex, what we've done is we've really simplified this, and we've allowed you to set this setting through the software on the Flex configuration pages, which means that no matter what cable you have, be it crossover or straight through, you'll be able to configure the iTach Flex to talk to it. So it just makes it one step simpler that you don't have to worry about getting the right cable to talk to your device. On all of our devices, we also support hardware flow control and parity, so you can talk to virtually any of the devices you can talk to with COM port, DB9 COM port on your PC. And we also support up to 4 simultaneous connections on the iTach and iTach Flex. So again, we can talk. One person can be talking to this device and sending out serial commands from their living room, while another person can be talking to it from their bedroom. So here's an example with serial communication from over the network. And so we have our control software. We'll send out a serial command, and that'll go out over the network into either a GC100 or an iTach, as we have on the top left, or an iTach Flex. And then that command will go out just as it's been sent out on the serial port in RS-232. And then we'll be able to control the projector, security panel, or whatever we have connected to that serial port. So the third mode of communication that we have is called relays. And for the GC100 and the iTach, we have 3 dry contact closure relays, which is really just a way of saying that we have an on and off switch, kind of like a button. And so to use these relays, we have Phoenix-style connectors, which have 2 pins. And so essentially, if you wanted to wire this up to, say, a garage door opener, you would take the button that would be the open button, and you would take one end of that button, or one end of the wire that would go to that button, would go into one terminal, and the other end of that wire that would go to the other end of the button would go to the second terminal. And now we'd be able to tell that button to basically push on or off to open or close the garage door. And so all of our relays are rated for 24 volts at half an amp, and this allows you to control a wide variety of devices such as screens, irrigation, garage doors. A lot of amplifiers out there have contact closure inputs. There's a whole plethora of devices that you can control with relays. And these are available on the GC100, GC 112, 18, and 18R, as well as the IP2CC and Wi-Fi to CC units. So on the Flex, we have a very similar setup, except we have added some functionality. So we have 4 dry contact closure relays, so you get an additional relay. And They're also rated at 24 volts at half an amp. But we also have made this cable so you can configure it for different relay types. So if you have a type or an installation where you need to control either say a single pole double throw, a double throw single throw, or a double throw switch, you can set up the FlexLink relay cable to do that control. And this is all software configurable to change the different relay types. So it's very smooth within the web pages of the device. Another thing we've added to the FlexLink relay and sensor cable is the ability to control external latching relays. And so what this does is it allows you to hook up a very common, very easily obtainable latching relays, which you can then drive from the Flex. And that will allow you to talk to devices that exceed the 24 volt half an amp limit. So you can get a relay that will support mains voltage, and now you can control that with our Flex using the FlexLink relay and sensor cable. So it really opens up the possibilities for controlling a huge amount of devices that otherwise wouldn't be controlled. So here we have an example of a relay setup. So with the relays, we don't send very complex commands at all. We would just send an on or off command, or a pulse on or a pulse off command for latching relays on the Flex. And that on command would go out over the network, go into the unit through its Ethernet or wireless connector, and then one of the relays would trigger to go on, and that would drop down your screen or your curtains or open your garage door. And then if you send a command to go off, the screens would go back up or your garage door would close again. So I'm sure you've caught on by now is that all of our devices use network adapters. And the reason we've done this is because networks are basically everywhere. We all have networks or wireless or wired networks inside our home or in our commercial buildings. So they're really easily accessible. So it helps bring down the cost barrier, as you don't have to buy any additional hardware to install our devices. And we've also focused on 3 different types of control that allow you to IP enable devices that otherwise wouldn't be able to be put on the network. So all of our devices, like the TVs or the DVD players that don't have IP enabling built in, we can talk to through IR. And so that allows you to control all these devices that otherwise wouldn't be able to be brought into a home automation or a commercial automation installation. We've done the same thing with serial. All these, the projectors, the control panels, the security panels, and these types of devices that otherwise don't have IP enabling and would be really expensive if you were to buy an IP enabled model, can now be controlled with our serial devices. And the same with relays for things like garage doors that are very rarely IP enabled, can also be enabled, put onto the network using our devices. So what this all adds up to is that we make things really flexible and easy to install and use. We have an open architecture, which means that we play nice with everybody. We allow we allow anyone to develop software for our units or write their own driver or anything of that nature. And this allows you to control IR, serial, and relay through a variety of softwares and do it very easily. All of our, and what this allows us to do is allows us to make things very simple. There saves installation time and training costs, and makes all installers be able to control a lot of devices that would be in their client's house or in their own home that they otherwise wouldn't be able to control. So now, if Olga could pass the baton back over to Rusty, she'll
yes,
finish
Rusty.
up
So Rusty,
our
you're
portion of the
on.
presentation here.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Okay, it's not giving me the ability to share my screen, so I don't know if you can see it or not. There we go. Thank you, Olga. Okay, well, thank you, Garrett. Again, if you have any questions, please make sure that you put them in the chat box and we can answer them at the end. As I mentioned earlier, we are a partnering company, and here are some of the resources that we have available to you to use to get better information about our company, our products. I have our partner portal, we have our logos, product images. You can print data sheets, even some trade show booth signage. We have a support portal as well as a pretty comprehensive library that has all of our documentation, all of our APIs, and all of our software available. Also, we have a page that has some videos, some case studies, and some reviews and articles available. In conclusion, I would like to go back over some of the things we talked about, and that is we are an established leader in the market. We have been in a business in this industry for the last 12 years. We were a pioneer with the first product of its kind with the GC100, which later developed into the iTach and the iTach Flex, which Garrett told you about. We have partnered with almost every control system provider out there. We have flexible, cost-effective, and we embrace open systems. We have a simple hardware design for high reliability, and we are the simplest way to glue it all together via Wi-Fi and IP networking. Again, questions and answers at the end. I will be happy to answer any marketing or sales questions, and Garrett can answer any technical questions. And with that, our part of the presentation is over, and we'll hand it over to Olga.
Yeah, thank you. I'll unmute Garrett now. So Garrett, you're welcome to answer the question that you can see in your chat.
Okay, thank you, Olga. So the first question I see here is, will you be doing Z-Wave, Zigbee, Bluetooth? So Z-Wave and Zigbee are something that we've talked about. We've looked at a little bit, but it's not something that we have any plans for in the immediate future. But it's something that we're aware of is out there, and we are aware that in the future there may be a solution with that. So let's see if I can grab the next question here. Okay, so the IR commands database in iRidium is a welcome addition. Any plans for an RS-232-based library? Well, first off, I'm glad that you're making use of the IR database and you're liking it there. So for an RS-232-based library, we don't, Global Caché, we don't have any plans for an RS-232-based library in the immediate future. I don't know if iRidium has any their own plans for that, but we don't have anything at this time. So for your wireless units, do you plan to add wireless N support soon? So for our devices, we don't actually need very much speed. Upgrading to wireless N doesn't give any performance benefits on our devices. Our goal is just to have the wireless ability that'll be compatible with your home network, and for that, wireless G is still very commonplace and still well supported in the automation industry. So it's something that we'll probably stick to until we see that start to change. Please let those of us who can't see this know if we can view this presentation later. Okay, so apparently some people can't see the presentation right now. I'm sure that we can get a way to send these presentations to you for the Global Caché side. If you just want to send an email to support@globalcache.com, we'd be happy to send you this side of the presentation.
We'll also, I think Olga was saying that there's a recording of this session as well that we'll make available. In addition, we'll be sending out the presentations or making them available on our website.
Oh, great. So will an iTach IR blaster from a Wi-Fi to IR work with the Flex? So that's a good question. No, the iTach IR blaster does not work with the Flex. The blaster with the iTach has, or with the Flex has a little black box that you'll see in line with the wire, and that has some additional circuitry that's meant just for adding that blaster functionality to the Flex. So it does need that circuitry, so you'd have to get a FlexLink blaster. How does the device go about switching between doing IR output and being a sensor? So that would be a function, or that would be something that you can configure in the configuration pages. So for the devices to support that, being the GC100 and the IPO-IR and Wi-Fi IR, you would basically go into the configuration pages and you set, go to your IR ports and set the IR port to sensor in instead of IR out. And that's how the device knows to act or look for sensor input. Is it automatically? No, it is not. You have to go into the configuration pages for that. Did I understand that we can buy from master distributors? If so, could you please provide contact info? So all of our, Rusty will probably.
Yeah. Well, you were probably going to say we do have our distributors available on our website. If you have any questions or looking in a specific area that's not listed there, go ahead and email sales@Global Caché, and they're pretty quick about responding. If you'd rather just go and look, you can always just look on our website. We have a number of distributors.
Okay, so did I hear that the Flex would have a sensor input similar to the iTach devices down the IR port? Okay, so thank you for bringing up this question. I am realizing now that I kind of glossed over the sensor input portion of our FlexLink relay cable. So the FlexLink relay and sensor cable is actually how we're going to do sensor input for the Flex. And on the FlexLink relay and sensor cable, in addition to those 4 relay outputs, there are separate, so they can be talked to at the same time, 4 sensor inputs, and those are able to be controlled, or able to sense contact closure and voltage sensing. They're configurable between the two. So you'll be able to do those 2 types of sensing through that unit, and so there isn't a need for sensors through the IR port, or through the IR system of the unit. Just a suggestion, like into WITS RS-232 for adding into oil and gas use. Okay, I'm not familiar with the WITS, so that would definitely be something I will look up. Thank you for that suggestion. Where can we see the specific differences in capability of the iTach versus Flex? So on our webpage, we have underneath the, if you go to globalcache.com and then support downloads-docs, you'll find the family data sheets for both the iTach and the iTach Flex. So those will be good resources for that. You have mentioned that contact closure can be used for security. Can we configure that contact closure with a normally closed circuit and check for status when the circuit is open? Yes, so if you have contact closure, you'll be able to read those on the FlexLink relay and sensor cable. The contact closure sensor inputs will be able to be read, so you can pull the device, and your control software can pull the device, determine that the contact closure is open or closed, and do any type of actuation that you need based on that, and that would be dependent on your control software. Is the relay cable for the Flex available? So the FlexLink relay and sensor cable is not yet available. It's one that we are currently in beta with, and we have been having a really good beta. We've got some really good feedback from our beta testers, and we hope to have it out soon, but it's not quite ready yet, and we want to make sure that we have a really fully developed and stable product before we send it out. Can you talk a little more about your Android, iOS apps, or ways to accessing all the IR serial commands from these devices? So for our Android, for our partners that have Android iOS apps, there's of course iRidium. You can also go on our webpage, and if you look at go to Control Apps underneath our partners, you'll see a list of all the Android iOS apps. And I'm not sure I understand the second part here, but most of those apps will be able to send out IR commands or send out serial commands, and that'll be configurable in the software. Usually you'll just configure the device for, or you'll configure a device you're trying to control as a serial output, or as, or if you're controlling through IR, you'll configure it as an IR output. So if there are any other more questions, please send them in. Otherwise, I think Olga will be moving on to the iRidium portion of this presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Garrett. Thank you so much. Let's wait just a few moments for some more questions to appear. And there seems to be no questions. So thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Rusty. Let me pass on to our part. So, and the last question that was asked is really very closely connected with iRidium. That is, in fact, where iRidium enters when we speak about Global Caché. Really, when do you need it? So, you have a project, let it be a home cinema or it can be any commercial project, and the point is your customer wants to control the whole installation, the whole AV installation from his or her own smartphone or tablet. And this smartphone or tablet can be based either on Android, or it can be an iOS device, it can be a Windows-based device, or even a Mac device. So what to do? That is where iRidium comes in. So with iRidium, it is possible to control all of this equipment from one interface on the device, mobile device of the user, the one that he or she is used to. And that is not all, because iRidium allows you to control all of these devices, not from different apps that the customer has to switch among them, but from one app, from one interface, a whole variety of AV equipment plus automation equipment. And so let us begin. So that is what we'll talk about today, and we'll start what is iRidium. So iRidium is in fact a professional software that is capable of visualizing control of automation and AV equipment, just as I have just described. So it is a fully software solution, no hardware is required on our part, just the software. The app that we have works identically well and fast on iOS devices, Android-based devices, Windows-based devices, and Mac devices. It can provide full two-way communication with AV equipment, so you can not only send commands to the equipment, but also get feedback from it. And one more feature that is very, very important when we speak about iRidium is that any custom tailored interface is possible. So, where can we be used? So we can be used in residential automation, that is to make a home cinema, a multi-room system, or a whole smart home where AV equipment is integrated with different automation equipment. We can be used in commercial automation to control, for example, a conference hall or a hotel, or a smart office is also possible. And we are also used in industrial automations to monitor how different industrial processes go on. So let me give you an example of projects that have been made with iRidium. Here you can see a 3-room apartment in Europe where you can see a combination of AV equipment and Intel equipment used in one project and controlled from one interface that you can see in the photo. Let me show you one more example. That is already a project in Russia, and you can see that here that a custom tailored interface was created specially for this project. If you are interested, you can see more projects at our website. Here it is, www.iridiummobile.net, and here in the project tab you'll see a wide variety of home automation projects. In the second tab, Smart Buildings, you will see a variety of commercial objects where AV equipment is integrated with different automation equipment. And the last tab is Industrial Systems. So let me describe you what components iRidium really consists of. It is a software package, so it consists of a number of them. Two parts in fact. First one is the development tools, so a set of programs that is installed on your Windows-based PC, and the client part, where a different client is downloaded for different control panels, iPad or iPhone, Android-based devices, Windows-based devices, and Mac devices. So here is the enumeration of the instrument that development tools include. That is GUI Editor, iRidium Transfer, iRidium Gate, and iRidium Util. That is what are the quick overlook of iRidium GUI Editor. So it's in fact the visual editor where graphic interfaces are created. Mind that any interface can be created in fact, and the connection with the equipment is also set up here. So that is iRidium Transfer. It is another software app that is used to upload projects and licenses on control panels. And here is a variety of client apps for different control panels that can be downloaded from Google Play, from App Store, or from our website. So let me stress one more time what differs iRidium from similar control solution. That is, the interface is kept directly on the control panel. So it means that it works much quicker, much faster, and the graphic characteristics are better than any web-based app. So, and it's very important to point out that the interface looks equally well on any control panel, irrespective of the operation system that is used. What is more, so in iRidium it is possible to integrate several automation protocols together with AV equipment, and you don't have to really strain your brain to find out how to combine several automation protocols into one solution. And there is an open tool in iRidium by means of iRidium script. A driver to control practically any equipment can be written by you. And graphics and sound capabilities are practically limitless, and you can create a graphic interface to suit any client that you have. So let's start. So how to start your work with iRidium? First of all, you have to register at iridiummobile.net just to test it, to see what it looks like. Then, if you're really interested in it, you apply for full registration by giving more information about user installer, and then you'll get access to all the iRidium prices. The next step, you download the software package on your PC and the client tabs on the control panels that you plan to use. The next step is you create an interface. There are several ways for you to create an interface, and it's really great that you are given a chance to choose. First, you can use sample GUIs that we have available on our website. Here you can have an example of them. That is a Euro interface, a B2 interface, a much brighter one, a Xenon interface, or the latest interface that was designed by our team, that is an interface in iOS 8 style, so a recognizable style, and that is pleasant to look. And here is an example of a design that is created for a particular customer, so you can see it is quite different and really suits the needs of these customers. So the next thing you can so you can choose one of these GUIs. Some of them are free, some of them have to be paid for, and you can make use of the wizard of interface in our GUI, in our editor, to use the standard themes which are free to make up your interface. And if your customer is really picky and would like to be unique in his control of his smart home or home cinema, and he can afford it or she can afford it, you can make your own design in iRidium GUI Editor. So let us pass on to this part. So here is iRidium GUI Editor. That is what it looks like when you download it onto your PC. So what do we do? So first we have to create a new project. And you are to choose the control panel that you want to make the project for. Let's make it iPad 1 or 2. Then, to make your life easier, make use of the wizard of interfaces. You press the start button and you can choose one of the 3 themes that are available at the moment. Let's choose, for example, Metro iPad theme. We choose the main page And let's say we want to control an Apple TV. So we choose it and add it. So here is our project. It has two pages, main page with a variety of things and an Apple TV. So what do we do next? So we are to set up the Global Caché device. So what do? We find in the device base the Global Caché and drag and drop it into the project device panel. Then in the properties window, we choose the necessary technical information. That is, we put the host that we have got, we leave the port the same, we choose the correct type of the Global Caché device that we use, depending on what we have. Then we choose the mode that we want. Either we want Global Caché to stay always connected or to connect only with sending. The next, we choose confirm IR. It means that you choose the mode of its work, whether the following command is sent only after the previous command is sent or not. And the last one, the script model. You decide the way you want to control your equipment, using scripts or without using scripts. And let me say at once, the scripts are required to get feedback from the equipment. So now we pass on to the Global Caché Cloud, and in the Global Caché Cloud we are finding, by using the brand and the device type, the exact device that we want. So brand, so we have chosen Apple TV, as you remember. So we start typing and we choose Apple. We choose the device type next, that is Media Manager, and here we have got Apple TV. We drag and drop the Apple TV, let's say, on the first IR output, because we want to control the Apple TV from the first output. So we remove the unnecessary pages. So let me speak about this one more thing. Where do you get the IR commands to control different equipment? You can do it just the way we have just done it. You can take them from the Global Caché Cloud. But if for any reason such device is not included into this cloud, you can make use, or you can get the IR commands via the Global Caché IR Learner, or you can get this list of commands from documentation that you have to the device, or you can even make up your own list of commands in the database. It's very convenient in case you use a different set of devices and commands, so you create your own database and make use of it in your project from one project to another. So how to send IR commands? So we have chosen them. There are several ways that you can send them. So what do? You find the necessary IR command, which is given here thanks to the Global Caché Cloud. You drag and drop it onto the necessary button in the interface, and we choose event for action as press. Press OK, and it means that when you press the button, so a certain action will happen, the one that we have dragged and dropped it. Let's do it the same for the other buttons. Or sometimes we have to have several functions that are controlled by the holding event, such as control of volume. Here we do the same. We take a certain command, drag and drop it onto the button, and then choose the hold event. So, and you continue like that. So that is pressing a button, holding a button, and you do like that as long as you have the necessary number of commands that have to be installed. One more thing. Sometimes it can be necessary to create a button that will send several commands in a sequence. And for this, you make use of scenarios, and the commands will be sent one after another. And in the object properties, you will see the number of events that are sent on the press event. There was a question what to do if you want to use an IR output as a sensor. So it is possible on the hardware part, and it is possible on our software part. Here in the properties, you just change the mode from IR to sensor notify, and here it is. So it's very important to note here that our Global Caché, iRidium for Global Caché driver controls AV equipment via IR and and RS-232. But we have to stress here, if no scripts are used in the project by you, you will receive only system feedback. You won't get feedback from equipment. If you want this feedback from the AV equipment, such as the volume level, the list of tracks, or any other detailed information, I believe you'll have to use scripts. And the script is located, there is a special button in the iRidium GUI Editor, JS, and that is where script is written. And one more thing, we have seen above that there is one more part of iRidium software package, that is iRidium Gate. So it is a special software gateway that you download, and it is installed on PC. And iRidium Gate enables to connect more than one control panel, several control panels to GC106 and GC112. So the next point, now that we have created an interface, and we have dragged and dropped commands on the necessary buttons. What do we do now is to make connections between the two pages that we've made in our interface. So we choose the show pop-up rule, choose the exact page that we want to show, that is Apple TV in our case, and press OK. We do the same. We delete the first page that is not required, and in the emulator we see it work. So here what our project will look like. We press the button Apple TV and button works. Unfortunately, we don't have the hardware Apple TV in the office, so we can't show you the way it really works, but believe us, it works. So now that the interface is created and the commands are on the necessary buttons and everything is set, you ought to do the following. You ought to get a license to make connection between the interface and the real equipment. While you are practicing and while you are just making your project, you are to make use of we recommend that you use trial licenses that you will see in your account after registration at iridiummobile.net. So after you have tested it and you are absolutely happy with the way it works, you are to choose a commercial license. We have several types of licenses for AV. That is a device license and a site license. Let me show you the difference. So the device license enables control from one control panel, either one smartphone or one tablet, and it works with any AV equipment and Global Caché adapters. But if you want to get feedback from your AV equipment, you ought to use Device License Pro. In case you want to control your installation from a variety of control panels, several smartphones or several tablets, irrespective of the operation systems, you ought to use the site license. And if you want to get again feedback from your AV equipment on several control panels, you ought to use Site License Pro. So how to get a license? So you first of all choose the necessary type of it after reading carefully all the documentation and thinking carefully of what exactly you want to get in your project. Then you add the license to My Account section, the one that I have chosen to you. Here it is, My Licenses. Here, you'll add it here. Look at it. And here you can see the trial licenses in your cabinet, and in your buy section you'll have to buy a license first. Here they are, and well, then add them to My Licenses. Then you'll have to activate the license. Here you'll see it again in your account, and upload the license panel on the license file on your control panel. So what you do next? So the next thing you have to do is to upload a project that we have just created on the necessary control panel. So first there is a special button, Send to Transfer. So transfer is a software that is really programmed to send the projects to the control panel. Here what it looks like, that is the name of the project. You choose the panel that we have got and press OK. So in this window, the license, you put the license code, the activation key that you get from your account. In the project section, you choose the project that you want to show, and you update it. You can either search for it. You can be your iPad, for example. So you create a game and you do as follows. So you have chosen the AirPad, for example, as control panel. You choose the necessary type of license, the necessary project, and upload it onto the panel. So that's exactly the way it works. That's what you finish it all with. So if you want to learn more about iRidium, because we have just given you a very brief outlook of what is how to work with it, you're welcome to use free webinars of iRidium Academy at our website. We have got the Academy tab, here it is, and there's a variety of webinars. I believe you'll be interested in the iRidium introductory webinar, but unfortunately the time is not convenient for American audience. It will be very late at night. It's convenient for Europe, but unfortunately not for the United States. But you can see here a video recording of this webinar, and it will help you get better understanding of what is what. But I believe that this iRidium for AV webinar will be even more important and more interesting for you. It is scheduled on November the 28th, and it will be at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's a bit already more convenient, and you're welcome to this webinar. And our professional and experienced programmer, Roger Wicks, will be happy to tell you about working with Global Caché devices and setting connection with different AV equipment. Another tool that you can use, that is self-study section of iRidium Academy. Here it is, Academy, self-training. Here you will have a number of video lessons which teach you to work in iRidium Editor, and after doing certifying tests in this section of our academy, you'll get unlimited trial licenses, so it will give you more chances to test iRidium software. And after passing the test, you will be displayed on our website in the list of certified iRidium specialists. And this page is really heavily used by the end users or construction companies or any other company that is interested in making an installation with iRidium, and we're trying to find the specialists in their own country. Another one is that you always the support section of our website to give you more information. You can ask any question you have at our forum, or you can make use of the frequently asked questions at our knowledge base. All the necessary instructions and documentations are in iRidium Wiki. If you have any questions about licensing, about setting up connection, about different types of iRidium software package, you're welcome to consult this part of our website. And of course, you can write us in Skype and write to our technical support at support@iridiummobile.zendesk.com. So thank you, Rusty. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you for taking part in it and for joining this experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olga. Good night.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you, Olga.
Yeah, thank you.